Hello and a warm welcome to Living the Dream French Riviera, the podcast where we explore women's professional journeys while relocating to the south of France. I'm your host, Cécile Connet. Today's guest is Nita, an architect who left a successful career in London to follow her husband's job opportunity to the south of France, arriving with a toddler, no French, and what many would recognize as the classic role of a trailing spouse. What was meant to be a 2-year adventure slowly became something much bigger. Architecture is one of those professions that feel deeply tied to national systems, regulation, and language. Yet, step by step, project by project, Nita found a way to rebuild her career here on the Riviera. In this episode, we talk about the realities of relocation, learning a new language, rebuilding professional identity, navigating French planning rules, and the determination it takes to transfer a career that doesn't easily cross borders. We also explore how success itself can change when life slows down, moving from large international projects to designing homes, building relationships with clients, and creating a different rhythm of life on the Côte d'Azur.
Nita, thank you so much for joining us today. You've had an extraordinary journey from working on major UK projects to establishing your architectural practice here on the Riviera, and I'm looking forward to exploring that transition. But before we're diving, let's go back to the beginning. What first brought you to the south of France, and how did this new chapter begin?
December 2006. I was working and living in North London with my husband, and we had a 2-year-old daughter. My husband was looking to change his career, and this opportunity came up in the south of France. Well, why not? We can go for a couple of years and see if we, come back for when our daughter is school age. So the plan was just to come temporarily because it was a good opportunity. I was working full-time at the time and had lots of contacts, so they said, you can do a bit of work for us while you're there, using computers, doing CAD stuff. So we were like, okay, we'll do it. I knew Paris because Paris was so close to London, so we had friends in Paris. We'd go once a year on the Eurostar, and my husband was quite a Francophile and loved France, and he actually spoke a bit of French. He was using it for work. Coming to the south of France, we had like a recce, so we came with my husband's work. They kind of showed us what life would be like in the south of France, and we were like, wow, this is just amazing, it's so beautiful. And it was October. I remember we had dinner on the beach. We were like, of course we're going to take this opportunity, why wouldn't we? It seemed like a holiday.
I'm sure it vanished afterwards when you actually moved. What were your first impression of life in France?
The first thing was the language. That was very hard because I didn't speak any French, but my husband's work, they gave me 30 hours as part of the relocation package. And also after working full time and going to an office, our daughter had a nanny, and suddenly I was looking after my daughter as well, trying to do a bit of work here and there. So it was kind of like a blessing. I got to spend all this time with my daughter, which when we were in England, we had a crazy schedule. But I really struggled feeling homesick because we had no family around and I had a toddler. Also the language, I just didn't even answer the phone for 18 months because whenever I'd pick it up, I couldn't understand anything at all. But it really helped having the tutor, and she'd come to the house once a week in the afternoon when our daughter was napping, for example, and then I kept her on for 3 years. So once a week, I was just like, I'm determined to learn French. I think relocating with a small child was really helpful because we lived in a residence. So the residence had lots of apartments and lots of other families and children. So about 2 weeks after moving, I took my daughter outside into the gardens, and there were about 10 moms there with children, and they were like, we've been waiting for you, we've heard all about you. And I just had this immediate group of friends, and I started trying to communicate. They're all French. We had one who was Irish, married to a French husband, and a Swedish lady married to a French husband, so they helped me with a bit of translating, but I can say I was kind of thrown in the deep end with the French, so I just had to get on with it. We moved in the winter, we moved in December, and we were out every day. I remember opening, because in England you have a habit, you open the curtains in the morning just to see what the weather's like. And here it was like every day for, I think, 2 months, it was just like blue sky and sun. It's like it's crazy. We can go outside, no problem. I don't need a brolly. It was brilliant.
So you initially planned to move here for 2 years. Obviously, you're here after nearly 18,
Yeah.
19 years. What made you stay?
Well, 2 years came very quickly, actually. In that 2 years, I had a baby, and I also started working for a practice. Our daughter started school. I was starting to get to grips with the language and also working, and my husband was really enjoying his job. And to be honest, we had so many people coming and visiting us from the UK because they all thought we were going to leave after 2 years. So once after 2 years, we started getting into more of a rhythm of life, and we're like, we're just getting used to this. There's no reason for us to move back. So that's why we decided to stay.
Before you moved, you were probably picturing your future life in a way. How the actual life was?
It was very different to how we were in England. In England, I was very career driven, and, I was commuting to London. I was working for an amazing practice, and I was successful as a director at the practice, and we worked on some amazing buildings. I travelled to Singapore. We built a university there, and so I kind of thought I'd be carrying on in that trajectory. But as I said, it was very demanding for me and my husband. We were both commuting, and we didn't spend enough time with the baby, our daughter, who was small at the time. And I think the move came at a really good time. It was kind of not sustainable for us to carry on at that kind of speed, really. And when we moved to France, I thought it'd be like a holiday for 2 years, but it was very different. It was difficult with a pregnancy and a small baby, not working full time and trying to find my identity and how I fitted in. And obviously the south of France is a lot less diverse than London. And, I missed being able to go to the supermarket and buy, Indian groceries, meet other Indian families and people, and see films, Bollywood films or even English TV. I really missed.
You left an incredible career in the UK. I'm sure at some point you want to go back having an interesting professional life. How do you go from doing only a few small jobs to getting more serious about your profession?
So when I moved here, again, as I started just doing kind of bits of CAD work, computer-aided design work for friends in the UK. And then when my son got to about 9 months old, I always wanted to continue in architecture because you study it for so long, and I really love it, and I didn't want to lose my career because it's kind of part of who I am. And I have a very supportive husband, family, and they never discouraged me from, carrying on with my career. In fact, the opposite, and I got a lot of support. So I started looking for work, and I found a job freelancing with a practice in Valbonne who spoke English, and they'd actually moved from the same part of London as I had, and it was amazing. As a French architect with his English wife, we immediately got on, and I started working for the practice. They had a lot of English clients, so then I was starting to work on smaller projects, small hotels, small English-speaking clients, renovations, and it was challenging, but they gave me English-speaking clients, so at least I could communicate with the clients. I loved it, and because I was freelance, I had flexibility. I could still, pick up the baby from the NUNU and the child from school, and, my husband was able to have flexibility as well, even though he was working in an office. I think that was the big cultural difference we found in France. You don't have to kind of be at your desk from, 9 till 6 kind of thing. It was, so long as you get the work done, it doesn't really it's not so strict.
Architecture is highly regulated, and just like law, it's usually a profession that you practice wherever you studied it. Did you have to retrain? Did you have to go through some qualification? How did you manage to work in a different country?
Well, that's a good question, because when I first moved, it was amazing working under the umbrella of the practice, because in Valbonne, because obviously I wasn't registered with the Ordre des Architectes, which is the regulatory board for the for architects in France. I was registered with the ARB in the UK, which is the Architects Registration Board. So I was licensed to practice in the UK, but not in France. So I worked under their umbrella, under their insurance. I got a lot of experience from working again on small projects. They were, amazing mentors. I'm still in touch with them. And if I ever have a question or a problem, I just pick up the phone and say, please, can you help? How do I deal with this? And they pass work to me as well. It's been really amazing. And after many years of working with them, and I started getting people asking me, why don't you, can you do a project for me? Or I know someone. And I was like, well, I can't do it under my own name. I have to do it under the practice I'm working with. And then Brexit happened, and that kind of kicked me into motion. I was like, well, I'll just register here as an architect. So I did that, and it was lucky I did it before Brexit, because it was part of the EU, so my qualification was recognised, whereas now you have to do an exam. I got in there just in time. Friends as well said, what are you afraid of? You've got this experience. If you don't try it, then you'll never know. Just take some projects on and try it. So that's what I did. I just kind of leapt in with both feet and didn't look back.
Transferring your skills, was it just an administrative? You just had to register in France? You didn't have to go through any exam? Yeah. How did it work administratively?
Oh, no, it was a lot more complicated than that. It was, the design aspect was fantastic. It was lovely to work with smaller clients and be really involved with the design, and the design is something I loved, and that's why I kind of did in the initial years of working alongside the practice. But then they started giving me more challenging things like planning permissions, and that was a real eye-opener with the regulations. Like each town hall has its own regulations, whereas it's not global. And so you have to read through them really carefully, and also they can be interpreted in different ways. So it depends, if the mairie, how they interpret this clause. And that's where the practice were very supportive, where I'd got stuck, and, at least I was working under the umbrella with them helping me. To this day, I find it the most stressful part of my job is dealing with the planners and the mairie, and I don't think the clients understand, because they just expect you to have an answer for everything, but it's like going back to square one each time, and they get updated as well, so you have to just be on top of it, which is why I always suggest to clients the first thing we do is a feasibility study to make sure that what they want to build, their extension, or even a renovation if they're changing windows or doors, that is going to be accepted by the mairie, because sometimes they don't, and the clients don't understand that. So it's better to get all that out of the way first, so they know exactly what they can do.
And all these regulations are written in French, obviously.
Yes.
And not the easiest French?
No. No, you kind of, after years of going through them, you kind of realise what the key points are now. But even now, I did a training course recently on AI with architects using it in architecture, and I think in a matter of months, years, AI will be able to analyse the planning regulations for us or give us a summary, but it's still at that stage where you need to double check.
So your work has shifted from impressive large institutional and corporate projects to more individual ones. How was that transition? I imagine when you work on corporate projects, you're part of a large team.
Yes.
Whereas on more individual ones, you hold more responsibilities and more accountability, and you're in direct contact with your client. How was that transition? Was it challenging, refreshing?
Yeah, there are pros and cons. I mean, working on a big project, as you said, you have the whole team of people, but then usually you focus on one part. You can't do everything. Or on site, you can't look at every single detail. There has to be a team of you. Whereas here I could, build a real relationship with the client, which I really enjoyed and I loved. And I didn't realize I enjoyed it so much until I started doing it. And I've been very lucky, and I've had some really lovely clients. Some of them I've become friends with them, and some lovely projects as well. It's like a dream come true. I never thought in a million years that I'd be like making buildings in France in French. It's different, but I'm glad I've got both experiences, and I think at this stage in my life this is suiting me now, because in London it was intense. It was a different speed.
How do you think your UK experience has helped you with this experience here?
I think especially with English-speaking clients and UK clients, there's a lot of cultural aspects to design. They, I think, feel more comfortable talking to someone who is British or English-speaking, then they can explain their ideas a lot better. Then I also have to explain the reality of building a project in France. And before I was doing very modern buildings, but here I found it incredibly interesting, to be honest, because France is so far ahead in terms of green energy and building renovation than the UK. Now everyone's starting, because I still do follow training in the UK, and it's very interesting to compare, because now the training in the UK is all about retrofit and, heat pumps, insulation, changing windows, which I've been doing ever since I started here in France. It was always part of the architectural language for renovation, that you have regulations as part of the planning as well, which are to do with energy, which I think France is way ahead. And that's kind of inspired me, because that's what I was doing in the UK, working on sustainable architecture. And here, even if it's at a small scale, it's still the thing that really interests me.
Do your clients usually expect this, or is it something you offer as a bonus?
The French clients do. They are very keyed up and clued up about energy efficiency, because it's good for them. It means smaller bills, whereas in France, usually my clients are kind of second home owners, and the bills weren't really something that was interesting to them. But when you start explaining that, it's a cost now, but it will reduce costs in the future. And now, especially English clients are becoming more savvy with energy, greener building.
The climate is very different from the UK to here in the south of France. Have you noticed a difference in how you build or how you renovate according to the climate?
Yes. And also the building methods here are very different. In England, it was all, brick cavity walls, insulation with an air gap in between, and that just doesn't happen here at all. It's kind of a concrete frame with insulation and render, and that's it. So it took me a while to get used to that, because I was still thinking of the cavity wall. Being on site teaches you, and things like flat roofs and having the kind of waterproofing you use. I'd specify it and then be like, well, you can't use that here, it's just going to melt because it's so hot. So yeah, there were a lot of technical things, but I did learn a lot from working with the practice and also on site. I love being on site, and I'd spend as much time as I can, because you're always learning. Every project is different. There's always a different problem. There's lots of horror stories on site. Just when you start opening things and when you start demolishing, you always find some bad surprises. It's never money. I always think we're going to find money or a big wad of cash or something, but no, it's always something leaking or broken. You do learn so much from the builders as well. I like to get the builders on board very early and discuss a lot of the details with them. That's how I learnt how to build in France and the kind of technical terms for things. And there was an amazing book as well. I've forgotten what it's called now. It's like a Bible. It's a book about construction, and it had pictures, drawings, and it had the words in English and in French. And I just studied that. I still refer to it. It's in my bookshelf. It's amazing.
That must have been very handy.
Yes.
You mentioned construction team. How would you compare the construction team in the UK that you were used to the construction team here in France? How do they work differently?
Yes, they don't kind of have the the same level of urgency here. I'm always on their backs. The builders, I just seem to be calling them all the time, chasing them, which I never had to do in the UK. They just get on with it. They follow timetable, a program, a plan, which is sometimes difficult for the English clients to deal with because everything seems to take so long here. And the other thing I found very different was there's not so much the general contractor, there's separate trades. And I found that very difficult because on site, when you have separate trades, then they'll say, oh, well, that's in their bit and that's in theirs. And then you have to wait for this to finish before the tiler can come on site. And so I still prefer working with general contractors. And I tell the clients, it might be slightly more expensive, but honestly, there won't be a hole and it saves you time and money in the long run.
It has happened to pretty much everybody I know that the plumber or the plasterer or whoever has taken several jobs at the same time and never show up to yours, and you have to chase them all the time.
Yeah, well, this is it. I think it's much better using a general contractor because then they have their team.
In the UK, you often see really large renovation. You can see them also in countries like Belgium, where people take a building and make something completely different out of it. We don't see this that much here.
If they are British or second homes, then they kind of want the French, postcard house, and they're very happy with the style. They want their kind of piece of Provence or whatever in the south of France. So they don't tend to be too contemporary, whereas the French clients, they are more into contemporary architecture, but they understand what goes on with the planning, that it's quite difficult and they have to stick to certain things. So they don't mind just pushing as far as we can go with the planners. And sometimes we have to get a bit creative, like it's with the planners in France, which is very different to the UK. Even if a building's protected, it's just what the outside looks like. Whereas if you have a listing in the UK, it's like having a building in a museum. You can't change the windows, you can't make single glazed, double glazed, or you can't do it. It's very restrictive for energy efficiency. Whereas here, even in Old Antibes, you can change the windows so long as they look like the original windows, but we can still make them double glazed and with trickle ventilation, and so that they're up to today's standards to make it more energy efficient.
So you usually work with individuals here. Can you imagine taking on large-scale projects again?
No, never say never. I mean, the thing is, because I work for myself, I'm on my own, and I have a great team. I have other architects who help me when things get too big, and also an interior designer. I have a surveyor, other people who can draw on CAD for me. So I have a good team that I can pull on when I need. And the thing I've thought about it, the question has arisen, shall I grow? Is now a time to grow? But as I said, this actually it kind of suits me because I've now found my rhythm, because it's been hard because I've had to start from square one in another language, and now I'm learning still as I go on. And the thing that I enjoy is the relationship with the client and the getting into the nitty-gritty of the project. Once you start growing and getting bigger, then it's about finding clients, and it becomes more of a business than creative. So it's helped me discover what what I enjoy as well, even though it's incredibly stressful. It's not all designing and drawing nice pictures, it's all the rest of it. But I think maybe growing would bring another level of stress because the employer rights are so different here. If I employed someone, that's it. I'd have to make sure that they had the work and that I could pay all their taxes, and I think I've got enough stress without that. Ideally, I'd love one other person, like a full-time assistant, but again, it's just finding the right person and finding someone who is bilingual and has experience of architecture drawing. Like I said, I have an amazing team. I have some really talented people, French, who I call on to help me, and they assist me and with various projects.
How do you find your team?
It was all through work. So working with the practice in Valbonne, they had other freelancers and we kept in touch. And also just from clients, also they had their builders. Some builders were recommended to them, and then I've just got on really well for me with the builders. The issue is they have to pick up the phone when I call, and if they don't, then they can forget it. I won't work with them. Communication's really important for me.
I understand that the first practice you worked with was really a blessing, and you got your first clients from there. How do you get your new clients now?
It's all been by word of mouth. I think people, they hear that someone can speak English, and it's through, the network of English-speaking friends that I've made as well. Because a lot of my friends are actually French because of where we live and the kids went to French school. I've managed to have quite a network of English-speaking friends as well through the practice that I worked with because they were bilingual. I have had a couple through the website. Had a lot of time during COVID. I was still very busy with projects, but I had to close down a couple of sites. We weren't allowed to continue. And then I said, right, I should really do a website because a lot of people ask, do you have a website? And I hadn't because I was just too busy working. So I set up a website and I set it up so that if people were looking for English-speaking architect France, then my name would come up. So I've had quite a few inquiries from the website. But then as well, it's, sometimes you get a query for a project and then you don't hear anything, and then 2 years later it comes back. So sometimes, you're in it for the long game, and people have come back after years as well.
Do you work exclusively in the south of France, or have you had projects in other parts of France?
No, it's mainly on the Côte d'Azur, but one of my projects at the moment is in the Vaucluse, which is it's over 2 hours drive, so that's been more of a challenge. But it's an amazing project, so I really wanted to do it. And the thing that's been tricky is because I don't know builders over there, but with a lot of work and research, I managed to find an incredible roofer and an incredible menuisier for windows because it had needed a lot of structural work doing. We had to change the roof, which was leaking. Again, the client was very interested in making it energy efficient. We changed all the windows, put in mosquito screens. But then for the interiors, I've taken my team from here to there. That's why it's taken a bit longer than I would have liked because they have to travel as well. Sometimes they'll sleep there. Sometimes they'll have other projects. So we're doing the project in 2 phases. So for the second phase, I'm trying to think of how I can procure it so that it's more efficient than the first phase.
Vaucluse and here are very close. It's only a 2 hours, so Provence, but still when you go there, you can see it's different.
It is, yeah.
That the house look different, even though they're still Provençal.
Yes.
Did you have to discover new things?
Yes, yeah. I've discovered a lot about even the climate there. It's different. It's wet, colder, more extreme. The house is beautiful. It's hundreds of years old and it's solid stone. So we had all the classic problems like you do in Old Antibes. I've seen it here as well with stone just retaining moisture and humidity. So it's the same principles apply to a project in Antibes, for example, is the project in the Vaucluse where we have to ventilate, we have to create a barrier to a rising dam. No, it's just having the open space and all the houses look so beautiful, and just the drive there is a joy. So you kind of forget what a beautiful part of the world we live in, and driving through the vineyards, and it's a completely different feel to the Côte d'Azur. Yeah, it's magic.
Definitely. Looking back on your journey, I imagine there are things you see differently now. Let's explore how the move has shaped you. What do you think this relocation taught you most personally and professionally?
Hard work really pays off. I could have given up. I could have said, I don't like it here, I can't speak the language. But something drew me to France. I think the values, they really align with me, and I really, really wanted to learn French, and I was determined to do that. I love what I do. I'm an architect. It takes a long time to study, to become an architect. I enjoy it. I didn't want to stop. That even made me determined to carry on and find a way of making buildings in the south of France. It felt really good when I got my first planning permission and my first site board went up with my name on it. And then when I registered with the Ordre des Architectes, and we had a ceremony in Marseille, it was really nice, and I had to put a panel of my work up. And I was like, wow, look what I've achieved. The icing on the cake really was last year when I got my French nationality, because I had to do that all on my own, because my family, my husband and kids, they're Irish, so they were kind of Brexit proof, and so I had to go through the whole process of doing the language test, studying for the cultural interview, and finally I got that, and I just never imagined in a million years I'd be French and making buildings in France. It's like a dream come true, really.
It's an amazing achievement. Would you take us through the steps of being registered to the Ordre des Architects?
Yes, so I had to show them that my qualifications, I had to have everything translated into French, and I had to submit it. When they'd assessed it, then they said, yes, you can be registered with the Ordre des Architectes. But the other thing I have to do is I have to do training every year, and I need my insurance for being an architect. So that was a challenge in the beginning, doing all my training in French, and it was really hard, but now I can tailor the training to projects. So I did training on a lot of things to do with energy efficiency, also with treating problems in buildings, old buildings, particularly like humidity, damp. Now I'm doing some training on using AI to create an assistant to help you with day-to-day functioning of an architect's practice, with minutes, meetings, and also writing documents. Other training is looking into doing extensions, extra floors in wood, which is something that's becoming more and more current here, because building with concrete is very expensive. It's very labour intensive, material intensive, and you need to resolve foundation issues, making a lightweight structure, which builders used to look at me and say, no, we don't do that, but that's becoming more and more common now.
How long would you say it took you to get your certification, your French certification?
It took me a few months.
So much quicker than getting your French nationality.
Oh, yes. Yeah. It was at the time. Now I think it would be different because of Brexit. And I think it's quicker now to get your nationality because they do it all online. Before I had to send like a phone book of certificates and everything translated in triplicate.
It took you like 5 years to get your French nationality? Yeah. From the moment you
submitted my dossier, yeah.
Incredible. Do you feel you had to prove yourself all over again here?
Yes, I did, because I'm not French. I'm a woman. I'm a woman of colour. I feel like I've had to prove myself 3 times. That's always been with me since I was very young, because I was in the UK, I was second generation, and I think that just makes you more determined. But then you do kind of take a lot more responsibility on yourself and think, I have to get this right, and you do push yourself harder. because you feel like you have a lot more to prove. Hopefully it's just my feeling and no one else feels that. My clients don't. They just think, oh, she works hard, she's a good architect.
Is there anything you would do differently? Anything which you known before?
I don't think so. I think I thought long and hard about every single decision that I made. Maybe bought somewhere here early on and we didn't realise we were going to stay here for so long. We rented for 15 years. But then at the end of the day, it was a wonderful apartment. It was a fabulous place for the kids to grow up.
How has your definition of success changed since leaving the UK?
Oh, so success for me in the UK was working with a, renowned practice on, prestigious buildings. For here, I think the success has been, it has completely changed my outlook. It's just having the lifestyle here, which has enabled us to spend time as a family, which has enabled me to enjoy and learn about a different culture, to feel more like a global citizen. I have another nationality, and I do feel French now because I've spent so long here and I've been working here, and I know so many French people here, and like I said, the culture really resonates with me. That was it, and having the flexibility and the work-life balance, which even my husband, working for a company, he has a high-powered, stressful job, even he finds the work-life balance here completely different to what we were doing in the UK.
How do you think your life might have unfolded if you hadn't made the move?
So I've thought about this before. Like I said, it just wasn't sustainable. What we were doing, we were just driving ourselves. We were in the rat race, working like crazy and not being able to spend time I think it came at the right time. I think we would have burnt out, or I have no idea. I just don't even want to think about it.
Was there a moment that made you feel especially proud when you thought, yes, I've made it?
Well, there's a few. One time I remember feeling really proud of myself. I was in the office and I answered the phone, and it was the structural engineer. The structural engineer spoke French. And I actually managed to have a conversation with the structural engineer in French. When I put the phone down, I heard like this applause, and everyone was like, wow, Nita, you did like a phone call in French with the structural engineer. That's quite an achievement. Again, it's something I never dreamed I'd be able to do. My first planning permission, getting registered and going to the ceremony and the Ordre des Architectes and getting my French nationality, all of those. I feel like
it's quite a
kind of achieved quite a lot.
That's quite a lot for one person. Yeah, absolutely. Do you see the Riviera as your long-term home, or could you imagine working elsewhere one day?
Never say never, as I say. But we've been here so long, and for our kids it's home, and now our eldest, she's at university in the UK, and for her, coming to France is coming home. She likes to come home, see her friends. Well, my husband and I both have careers here, and we're very happy staying here. We have our lovely home now, and the plan is to stay here, but never say never who ends up, or who knows where the next opportunity might be, but we're very happy here.
Before we wrap up, let's take a look at life on the Riviera, a place that inspires countless dreams and carries its own unique reality. What is life like on the French Riviera really day to day? Is it as glamorous as it seems?
It's yes and no. Like I said, it's so beautiful, and when you're carrying on with daily life, you can sometimes forget, and sometimes I'll be driving to site and I'll be like, wow, it takes your breath away. It's so beautiful. And the weather makes a big difference. I swim in the swimming club in Antibes, and I swim with outside. There's an Olympic-sized swimming pool. It's amazing. And I wasn't a skier before I moved here. Then we've kind of felt peer pressure with the kids, and we'd take them skiing. And I remember once we went to Grès-Eolien, and you could ski, and at the top of the mountain you could see the sea. And someone said, oh yes, you can ski and sail in the same day. I was like, gosh, how glamorous is that? Then, of course, you had the Cannes Film Festival, which is always exciting. We just go for a walk there. You see stars and everyone dressed up. It does feel quite glamorous. But day-to-day life, obviously, it's just like anywhere. we get on with it, but just with amazing weather and beautiful surroundings.
What's the most iconic place in the region, in your opinion?
For me, I love Antibes. It's the only place I've lived, and one of my favourite views is when you drive around the Cap d'Antibes. Whenever we have visitors, we just drive around there because it's so stunning. Then you get the view back towards Old Antibes with the Picasso Museum and the tower. And any time of day you go there. I remember we went to the Monet exhibition in Monaco a couple of years ago, and he'd done a series of paintings of Antibes, all in different light. And it really is, it's like a painting. You see it in a different light at different times of day, different seasons, different times of the year, and it's always beautiful.
Do you have a favorite or spot or hidden gem that you'd like to share with us?
Oh yeah, I have a couple. So one of them is the villa in Roquebrune-Cap-Martin, which is the E1027 villa that Eileen Gray built, and Le Corbusier used to spend time there as well, and he built his little cabin, the cabanon. And it's amazing to visit. I've been there 4 times, and I'd get the guided tour every time. I just love it. It's just been so beautifully restored, and the view from there is amazing, and the beach is lovely. That's definitely one of my favourite places. Another place which I keep telling people about and be like, oh, we didn't know that. There's a little village inland about 45 minutes drive away called Lucéram. And on Christmas Eve, we've been going there with the kids ever since they were small. Even now when they're big, they still want to go there on Christmas Eve because they have all the little nativity scenes all around the town. The whole town's pedestrianised. And you can just go and count them, and there's thousands, and they're everywhere. They're hidden in trees there. It's just magic. It's brilliant for Christmas, and say anyone, if they're lucky enough to be spending Christmas in the French Riviera, that's something they should do.
We see a lot of Provençal and neo-Provençal buildings here. Do you think we miss having more modern buildings?
Yes, I felt very strongly about it in the beginning, but then I think that's what makes the south of France what it is, and that's what it appeals. You have plenty of iconic modern buildings, like the Marina Baie des Anges, which is completely recognisable. And then you have these gems, which like the Villa 1027, but it feels like the Côte d'Azur because it has this mix. And then you have Monaco. They can do what they want there, basically. It's a feat of engineering, that place. They build on the sea. They have amazing buildings and architecture, but here I think people come here just to go down the Promenade des Anglais or the Croisette en Cannes and have those Belle Époque French architecture on seaside architecture. I think there's something for everyone. It used to frustrate me in the beginning, but now I'm at peace with it because you can find something you love.
How do you see the region evolving? You've seen it change over the years?
Yes, it is becoming more diverse. I mean, coming from London, I used to feel very homesick I found it quite provincial. The south of France, there wasn't, the same kind of exhibitions. I love music and seeing bands, and there was nothing here. But that's changing. Definitely, there's more and more. I'm a big fan of house music, for example. I love going and dancing, and they have better DJs coming now, especially in the summer. We have the Jazz Festival where they have some in Antibes, Juan-les-Pins, where they have some incredible artists. And also there's more diverse people as well. There's more and more, for example, just an example is more Indian people coming now working in Amadeus. There's quite a big community of Indian people, so we get to celebrate all the festivals as well. There's as well a huge British community, and also people are starting to speak English more, so especially younger generations, so they're actually enjoying speaking English. So even when I speak French, if they hear me speaking to someone else in English, they'll just start speaking English because they want to speak English, whereas that wasn't the case at all.
Nita, thank you so much. I love how your journey shows that moving abroad doesn't have to mean a complete change of career field. Your story is a powerful example of how experience and adaptability can bridge cultures and how experience can travel even when the systems are different. I hope your experience will inspire others to take that leap, even if their profession feels impossible to transfer. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Living the Dream French Riviera. A special thank you to Nita for sharing her journey and the courage relocation requires. Following a partner abroad can look simple from the outside, but rebuilding a profession in another language and another system is no small achievement. If you enjoyed this conversation, please follow the podcast, leave a review, or share it with someone who might need to hear it. It really helps the show grow. You can find more about Nita and all my guests at livingthedreampodcast.com, where you can also support the podcast if you would like to help me continue sharing these stories. This episode is the antepenultimate of Season 1, and as the season draws to a close, I want to thank all of you who have been listening, sharing, and supporting the podcast along the way. Season 2 is already in preparation with more extraordinary women and their authentic stories coming your way, and I would love to hear from you if you have ideas, themes you'd like explored, or guest suggestions. A heartfelt thank you to Claire Long for the beautiful music that accompanies each episode. I'm Cécile Connet, and this has been Living the Dream French Riviera. À bientôt!